Good morning to the commissioners. Good morning to the chief. Good morning to City Attorney Nguyen and to the audience. Welcome to the Board of Fire Commissioners meeting. It's our regular meeting, Tuesday, February 21st, 9 a.m. Ms. Gomez, would you do a roll call for us, please?
Woods Gray,
Here.
Here.
Hara,
Here.
Harvey,
Here.
Ibarra, Fire Chief Crawley,
Here.
and Deputy City Attorney Linda Nguyen.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, Chief Crawley, would you do us the honors of
Yes,
flag
please.
salute? And
Everybody
moment of
stand, please.
silence?
Hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing and join me in a moment of silence in honor of our past and present members of the Los Angeles City Fire Department who devoted their lives to the protection of our community. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Very good. Now we're at Commissioners' comments. I received communications from a couple of people who had an interest in the public comments section, and they wish that we could find a way to get the telephones in place because they, I guess, still would like to be able to communicate but don't want to come downtown, which is a result of COVID. It showed us how we could use other devices to actually communicate with people. So that is one of the comments that I want to make. Also, it's Black History Month, and we'll celebrate it as some of us celebrate it every day. Some people celebrate it once a year. And we're thankful, I guess, for the month. It went from a week to a month. So it's a good time to point out the special group in our community, and in this particular, the LAFD, to point out the need for increasing the numbers throughout the department, females especially. There's a great need for more African-American females. And then there are some other areas that we could probably make improvement on. But with the Equity, Inclusion, and Diversity Department, I see lots of good things happening there. And it kind of ties in with Black History Month. So I'm glad that we have moved in that direction, and that is it's valuable to everyone. Are there other commission comments? Dr. Har?
On the 28th of last month, I attended the Golden Dragon Parade in Chinatown, and Chief Legal and Chief Crowley were there, obviously, and the VIP reception was interesting because the parade was 1 week following the killings in Monterey Park, and attending the VIP reception were Congress people, Judy Chu and Adam Schiff, and then the current mayor of Monterey Park and the past mayor of Monterey Park were also in attendance. And then we rode the bandwagon, although Chief Crowley and Chief Fliego basically, for the last half of the parade, they walked, shaking hands of all the attendees.
Oh, my goodness.
And so I was the only one riding the bandwagon.
Isn't that something?
And then, of course, the Tuesday following that was the event honoring Chief Everett, and a number of the commissioners were in attendance for that.
Oh, very good. That was wonderful. And so the certificate from the commission was presented?
Yeah.
Did they have a program?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Very, very good. Okay, thank you, Dr. Har. Are there other comments from other commissioners?
Yes, thank you. I was, just wanted to comment briefly on, I know we had some correspondence regarding the news coverage, I think, with Chief Crawley and the mayor regarding response time. I just thought it was particularly interesting because I know that it's a need for an increase in firefighters, but it also sounded like we have a facilities issue as well. So I think when people think of the overall challenges that LAFD has, one, it comes down to the need to hire more excellent firefighters and the process to get those firefighters through. I know, Chief Crawley, you particularly asked maybe for 5 more recruit classes. I know that comes down to budgetary concerns as well. But the facilities issue as well, I think, is something that the community and stakeholders, and in particular probably council and mayor, don't realize is such a need. And even personally myself as a commissioner, it didn't cross my mind in that way that that is something that is so critical for us. So I think as a commission, it was just, I wanted to make that statement in terms of somebody who has a personal interest in buildings and structures and facilities and how important that is for this department to continue to grow. So thanks, Chief Crawley, for taking the time to meet with Mayor Bass. And I know you two will hopefully work tirelessly in these next 4 years and beyond. And hopefully we can work to increase our budget and see what can happen to increase those facilities and in turn hire more firefighters to staff those places. So thank you.
I think it also helps us to move forward with that bond that we've talked about for the last 2 or 3 years. We need to move it ahead so that we can build more facilities.
Absolutely.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention Bishop David O'Connell, who was recently killed. For those who didn't know, he was over 20 years at St. Michael's on Manchester in Vermont. And he was a really good friend of the fire department, and especially with 57s on the toy drive. He used to reach out every year to 57s, and I was a captain at 64s at the time, but he would always tell them that he knew me, and they'd bring toys right over, and he always thought he was getting special treatment, but he was really a good friend to the fire department and a great loss to the community.
Oh, yes, such a tragedy. Are there other comments from commissioners?
No, I just want to echo both of those,
I'm sorry.
both of those comments, because as, obviously the Fox News stories were eye-opening, even though it's something that we've been talking about for years. So for us, it's probably not very surprising because we were aware that we've had a shortfall for a really long time, but to sort of have the public sort of become aware of this, it's, maybe it's a blessing in disguise because then we can move forward in a certain way, even though it's tragic for anybody when they expect a certain response and it's not there and it results in a loss of life, and nobody should ever have to endure that. And also tragedy with the bishop, as a practicing Catholic, he's been an important person in Los Angeles, and it's just, it's terrible to see that happen to anybody, but certainly somebody who, stood for peace. So that's all.
Okay, thank you very much. Our community has experienced a great number of tragedies over the last month, from the shootings in Monterey Park, and then we've had the other shootings in different places. We had the Jewish community attack, then we had the bishop attack, and there are attacks going on that we don't even talk about it here in the news. So we really have an issue in our city. And almost always they involve the fire department because of the nature of the work that we do. So it just puts more strain on the department. And we thank everybody for all the work that they do. But my hearts go out to all those people who are lost because of these tragedies. And we have a lot of work to do in mental health as well. maybe an expansion of our mental health wagons and things would help us along the way also, if they're out there moving around seeing some of these people. I don't know how we find them. They just seem to come from everywhere. They're not from the area, but they have an issue. So mental health is a real serious issue. Okay, very good. Thank you very much, all commissioners. Let's move on to item 2, report of the fire chief.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone, commissioners. I'll be reporting on my meetings and events and announcements that occurred between January 17th and February 20th. So the first one was January 17th, and that was a chat with the chief webinar. We continue to meet at least digitally or virtually with all of our members. I had Chief Saunders on, and we had a wonderful dialogue about our behavioral health programs and continue to push to support our people. So it's just a nice direct way to be able to communicate with everyone. And then we also have a question and answer at the end, which is a really good time for us to be able to answer all of our members' questions. On January 18th, I attended a meet and greet with Councilwoman Tracy Park, CD 11. I continue to meet with all the new city council leadership, and it really feels like we have a lot of momentum and a lot of support from our city leadership. January 21st, our command staff, including myself, we all attended the services for Laura Triner. She was our senior personnel analyst who passed away suddenly. A lot of love and support there for her and her family. Very tragic loss for the department and her friends and family as well, but we were happy to be there to support in any way that we could. January 25th, I had the opportunity to meet directly with Mayor Bass. She had requested our ability to provide an aerial tour of the city, and we really focused on the storm hazards, but also target hazards within the city. We utilized Fire 2 and had a lot of direct dialogue in regard to what the issues are and target hazards are within the city, and more importantly, what's the fire department's strategies to mitigate anything that comes our way. I also had another meet and greet with CD 15. That was Council Member Tim McCosker in Council District 15. Again, getting out there and making sure that the new council members understand what our mission is within the fire department. January 26th, we had the opportunity to give Norma Gutierrez, who is our personnel director. As you're going to see, there's a lot of retirements coming our way, but Norma did an incredible job for us in our personnel services section. We got to celebrate her 30-plus years with the department. Great loss, but she had a big smile on her face and was ready to start her next chapter in her life. We did talk about the January 28th, the Golden Dragon Parade. Wonderful opportunity to get out there with the community, again with Commissioner Hara and Deputy Chief Phil Flegel. Just a wonderful way to represent the department and the community as a whole. January 31st, here we go with another retirement. That was Chief Everett's farewell, Chief of Staff. We do have Chief Perez who stepped in, and he's off and running in his new position, so I'm happy to have him as part of my command team. February 6th, Battle of the Badges. This was an opportunity for our 2023 donation. I did show up with Chief Moore. We both donated a pint of blood, and we do have a friendly competition between LAPD and law enforcement. We have opened up a number of our fire stations also to the community, and we're trying to elicit individuals to come out and donate their blood and save lives. So that was a wonderful opportunity to go literally arm to arm with Chief Moore and donate my blood. February 8th, that was a Fox 11 interview, and we already talked about that a bit. Had the opportunity to represent the department in regard to our position with increased response times and really try to educate the public in regard to what our strategies and tactics are moving forward. We're working really closely with UFLAC and other city leadership to ensure that we do have proper amount of staffing, and it's also the staffing that we need here and now, but more and just as important is the staffing into the future, knowing that we have an increased call volume. As we were looking into our statistics, big jump in overall call volume, 12.5% since 2020 with no increase or actually less staffing. So we're working hand in hand. We're going to do the right thing and continue to push and strive to request and be successful in our budgetary requests, and then build out the future of what the LAFD should be like in regard to how we provide our services. Also, had the opportunity that same day to meet with the Innovation Performance Commission. A great opportunity to talk about their support in the past since 2015. They've provided some grants in regard to different pilots programs that we've requested. And also, just as important is now we're going to be moving forward to request additional funding for innovative ideas to better serve the public. So that was a great opportunity to meet with their commission. February 9th, that was a career day. Anytime I have the opportunity within the local community to get out there, and my calendar will allow me to get out there and represent the fire department. I had a wonderful time at a high school, a local high school, and talked about what it's like to be a firefighter for LA City. And that's a good opportunity to get out there. February 11th, recruitment fair. That was at Banning High School. It's one of our 5 magnet high schools. Again, wonderful opportunity to work with our recruitment section. And these were 8th graders coming into the high school and just want to show them what the magnet program's all about. And really towards the future is how do we make that direct link from our cadet programs to our Crew 3 to our magnet high school programs. I'm really looking forward to working with our staff and creating a direct pipeline for those really important recruitment strategies to make sure that we can hire those individuals that are part of those programs. So that's a work in progress, but I'm feeling really good about that as well. February 13th, had the honor to meet with U.S. Department of Homeland Security's FEMA. This was the U.S. Fire Administrator, Dr. Lori Moore-Morrell, as well as the Chief, this is a Deputy U.S. Administrator, Fire Administrator. That was Chief Tanya Hoover. They spent some time here at our headquarters and then also did a tour at Fire Station 80s and Fire Station 5, where they represent the federal government in regard to the U.S. Fire Administration. It's always good to show what we have here in the LAFD, but also to have that dialogue as to what our needs are to continue with the support on the federal side. I have 2 announcements, too, that I wanted to make sure that publicly I had the opportunity. On February 15th and 16th, I did conduct our administrative operations commander interviews. We had a number of internal candidates. I have selected officially Chief Saunders to be the next AOPS commander, so he'll be starting very, very soon. So congratulations and happy birthday today is his birthday, Chief Saunders. So welcome to the team at a higher level, and we look forward to working together very closely on the AOPS side. I also want to take the opportunity to introduce our new Chief Information Officer. He's in the crowd there. It's Sam Hinojosa. He is going to be leading the charge in our Information Technology Bureau. We interviewed a number of candidates a few months ago. It's probably more than a few months ago, but Sam's in the seat. We're really excited to have him as part of our command staff, so welcome, Sam. Looking forward to seeing what you can do. I know there's a lot to learn as you're stepping into this new role, but welcome to the LAFD, and we're excited to see where you can take it. And that's the end of my report.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Chief. Welcome, Mr. Hinojosa. Okay, welcome, and we're glad to see you here. I know we will hear from you later at another meeting with an update from your department. And congratulations to Chief Saunders, who 9.5 years, wow. That's when we started, and I remember him from then to now. That's great. Congratulations, and happy birthday to you. I know there will be a celebration after work, if not one at work. Dedicated soul, he's here working on his birthday. Very good, very good. Let's move to our next item, item 2. 2B. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Madam President, Commissioners, City Attorney. First of all, I want to thank you for your comments on supporting the emergency operations of the department in recognizing some of the recent events that have been portrayed in the media, because there are significant issues, and it's appreciative that you recognize the staffing of the department and the things we need to go in a positive direction. And the chief is also coming out with a strategic plan, as he's mentioned in the past, to help us prepare for that too. So after she mentioned all the great things, I guess I should say who I am. J.D. Drake, Chief Deputy of Emergency Operations, I would like to go over the significant incidents activities for the period ranging January 17th to February 20th. On January 22nd, early morning fire in Boyle Heights, a homeless encampment fire that caused one member to be deceased inside of one of these encampments. Northridge on January 23rd, a fatality fire, again, where adult male deceased in an attached garage conversion of a 3,000 square foot single-family dwelling. And as you know, recently, on January 21st, the significant incident in Monterey Park, where there was a mass shooting on the Lunar New Year. The LAFD did participate in that event with an automatic aid factor where we dispatched one rescue ambulance. Unfortunately, in this incident, there were 10 deceased and 17 victims. Want me to do it again? On January 26th, another significant incident that got some media notoriety as well. In Westlake, there was a Center Hall apartment building that had 8 units on the second floor, and I think all of you probably saw this in the media. We dispatched over 100 firefighters and knocked down this fire in less than 1 hour. I actually had one LAFD resource on scene prior to that in support of an LAPD operation for a barricaded suspect. When smoke became visible, they evacuated the rest of the building. Fortunately, there were no life-threatening injuries other than one injury to a 45-year-old male. We also participate in the city of San Fernando with providing services there as well. On January 30th, there was another recreation vehicle fire with, unfortunately, another adult male deceased in this one. In Hollywood, on February 2nd, Engine 82, another media event, fell into a large sinkhole, and the apparatus has all-wheel drive. It's the only one in the fleet that does, our electric fire engine. Fortunately, gained enough traction that the front wheels were able to pull this apparatus out with minimal damage. On February 4th, in Van Nuys, there was a structure fire at Chase Bank. This is still under investigation. This was a fire where we had a very large HVAC unit collapse in lightweight construction. Fortunately, it did that before our firefighters into the building, so there was no injuries. On February 8th, in Mar Vista, another single-family dwelling fire where, unfortunately, 2 persons, one male and one female, deceased. On February 8th again, in East Hollywood, 1 unit in a rear of 1-story residential commercial bungalows, another critical burns and an unconscious adult male who was transported. February 16th, a 50 by 100 1-story automotive radiator repair shop. We went into defensive operations, prevented it from extending to exposures, and fortunately no injuries to our personnel. February 18th, in Playa del Rey, another motorhome fire with a deceased occupant. In the Palms, we had an automatic aid with Culver City where there were multiple vehicles in a 5,000 square foot auto body shop that was once again well involved. On February 20th, a Metro Blue Line train, 5 people were in a vehicle. Unfortunately, 2 were deceased when the train hit this vehicle on the tracks, and 3 were transported in fair to moderate condition. 125 passengers were exited off of the train and did not have medical complaints. A large single-family dwelling occurred on February 20th as well in Vermont Square, where 7 civilians, 5 of whom declined transport, but 2 were in critical condition in this large single-family dwelling well involved. 1 firefighter was transported with minor smoke inhalation and nothing major significant. I would like to add that following Chief Crowley, that might seem like the negative thing, but I try to find the positive by reinforcing the excellent job that our people do in the field. Again, also reinforcing the same thing, that the call load. We're at 1,478 incidents for the average in the 2022 and 609 transports, which is significantly higher than it has been in years past when we're still not even at 2008 staffing levels. And I'm looking at the trends even today, and we're far surpassing the 1,478 and 609 transports. So I appreciate your recognition of the need. I know that our fire chief understands it, and the relationship that we have in working with the electeds to reinforce the importance of what is needed for the budget and resources for the LAFD. Thank you, unless you have any questions.
Yeah, question. In the actual structure fires where there were fatalities, were there smoke alarms in place?
And some there were, and I can't tell you in all of them that there were, but
Okay.
I don't have that data. I do know this, that we do dispatch our partnership with MySafe LA on these fires, Commissioner, and we try to address the entire community. That is one of the great community relations event and fire safety events that we engage in with either a battalion command team, at least an engine company, sometimes a light force, given the resource availability. And we survey the neighborhood. They do a canvassing, and the community really enjoys the fact that we go in and take a look at their homes, because as you know, we don't do fire prevention inspections on single-family dwellings.
Right.
But this is an opportunity to make their homes safer with either carbon monoxide detectors or of alarms as well.
And then the other, you had a fatality in a motorhome. I know a lot of times in the motorhomes, you have like a line, like a full block of motorhomes. Is there any thought been given to passing out free smoke alarms to, you know, kind of doing like a sweep what we do with the single families after a fatality fire?
We can address that.
So, you know, since we have a
Yeah,
partnership.
I've been doing that in the past, but that is something we can certainly look at.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I think
And then in that same regard, in terms of homeless encampments, I assume that some of these fires, are we keeping track of fires that are happening within homeless encampments in certain communities, or is it just all lumped together?
we are starting to collect more data on our persons experiencing homelessness community, because this is important. And the reason I brought these up, you know, I only want to bring significant issues to you. Like I said, there's 1,478 more, and
Yeah,
more than
right.
1,500 every day. But I bring these up to you to see to notice the trends that we're having, and we do need to
Sure.
address more and more of the PEH community. And so those are endeavors that we will continually embark on, yes.
Great, thank you.
Just dovetailing on that, can we have a report of all of the increase in call load? Because we haven't had a report like that in a while. So something about basically, you know, just year to year. maybe
Absolutely.
Like the last 5 years, and just broken down on different categories.
Mhm.
Because I know from the Fox report, it seems like it's across the board, and there's some homeless, but it's also just in a lot of different areas. So it's also better just to have the public sort of understand specifically from the department what we see as, you know, the increase in all these areas.
We will be happy to provide you that information, Commissioner.
So fire and, you know,
Yes, ma'am.
paramedic, all of it, everything.
Okay, great.
Okay, any other questions?
Very good. Any more questions? No?
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
thank you,
Thank you.
Chief Gray. The next is item C. Thank you. Good morning, Chief.
Good morning, Madam President. Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Fire Chief Crowley, Deputy City Attorney, Command Staff. My name is Tyler Dixon. I'm an Assistant Chief assigned to the EMS Bureau for the Los Angeles City Fire Department. I'm here to report on several highlights of EMS incidents between the period of January 17th and February 20th. On January 18th, in Operation Central Bureau, resources from Fire Station 13 responded to a medical emergency. The first arriving resource, Rescue 813, an EMT ambulance, was attending to the patient in the first minutes after arrival and witnessed a sudden cardiac arrest of the patient. They immediately provided basic life support, CPR, and ventilations, while Rescue 13 and Engine 13 shortly thereafter arrived, providing advanced cardiac life support. In addition, an EMS captain was requested and delivered a Lucas device, an automated chest compression device, which provides uninterrupted chest compressions during cardiac arrests. Approximately 10 minutes after multiple rounds of medications and the application of the automated chest compression device, a return of spontaneous circulation was obtained. Rescue 13 and the additional resources transported the patient to a local emergency room, Upon transfer to the emergency department staff, the patient was breathing spontaneously with no need for additional CPR. On February 5th, the LAFD cycle team was deployed in the Exposition Park area in response to a mass gathering at the LA Coliseum to ensure that adequate response times were maintained in the congested area. Late in the afternoon, while on patrol, cycle team and medical cart were dispatched to a reported person down in front of one of the local museums in Exposition Park. Cycle Team 3 responded and in 1 minute arrived to find CHP officers performing CPR on an adult male. Cycle Team 3 and Med Cart 1 were able to provide advanced cardiac life support and advanced airway procedures. While attempting to control the airway, Cycle Team 3 noticed an obstruction in the airway and using advanced techniques removed a object of food that was obstructing the airway. Additionally, a rescue ambulance, life force, and EMS captain arrived shortly after. The EMS captain additionally had the Lucas device, as we described in the last incident. The automated chest compression device was applied. Advanced cardiac life support, including medications, were delivered. And after several minutes of additional treatment, again, a return of spontaneous circulation was obtained. Patient was transported to hospital for further care. These are examples of, several examples of the excellent work that your LAFD paramedics, EMTs, and advanced practitioners have provided over the last month. And these two examples highlight an innovative tool that the LAFD is exploring. The Lucas device, or automated chest compression device, is currently carried on all EMS captains' sedans. You'll see later in your meeting today a package for an in-kind donation for 4 Lucas device for the advanced practitioner vehicles. Additionally, the LAFD is pursuing grant funding to purchase 1 Lucas device per ALS rescue. That's the end of my report, ma'am, unless you have any questions.
Okay, very good. Are there any questions for Chief Dixon? Okay, thank you, Chief Dixon.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, now we move on to the next item is item 3, public comment. I believe we have, I have one public comment card, Freddie Escobar from UFLAC. And you want to speak on all items. You have 3 minutes. Congratulations on your reelection.
Thank you, President Gray. First, good morning to the staff, to my brother from another mother. Happy birthday. I look forward to what you're going to provide your staff for lunch. So I'm going to invite myself.
Oh, that's how it works.
Chief Crowley, City Attorney, Fire Commissioners, Freddie Escobar, proudly serve as President of the United Firefighters of Los Angeles City, representing over 3,400 sisters and brothers of the LAFD. Over the course of the last few years, we have been relentless in advocating for more resources for our fire department. The LAFD continues to face enormous staffing challenges that need to be addressed immediately. Our department has fewer firefighters than we did 30 years ago. This is unacceptable, and we need to continue to have this discussion every single day until we have a reflection of what the city should look like with the services that we provide for the residents of Los Angeles. The LAFD also has fewer fire trucks, engines, and ambulances operating on our streets. All of this means emergency response times will be longer, putting everyone's safety in jeopardy. These past few years have been particularly challenging, but this staffing crisis has been years in the making. From 2008 to 2013, our department didn't hire a single firefighter. This problem is only getting worse as more and more firefighters leave due to unexpected early retirements, simply retirement, suspensions, or terminations. We applaud the fire chief and her command staff for tackling the issues head-on and pushing for continuous drill tower classes for all of the upcoming years. Let's keep hiring the most qualified individuals without ever sacrificing fire department standards, period. The department should never compromise safety in order to accommodate an applicant's strength or weakness. Firefighter lives are at risk, and we have an obligation to maintain the highest safety standards possible in order to keep our personnel and the residents in the city safe. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Gomez, there are no other, just one? Correct. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items anyone wishes to discuss or pull from the consent agenda?
Just briefly, the item 2G, the,
G?
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Brief question. Sorry, I guess it was off. So I just want to make sure that, so this report is just so that this isn't the actual, we're not agreeing on the fire code yet, right?
Right, so let's go ahead and bring up Cap Richardson. He can give us just a real quick brief and answer any questions that you may have.
So I don't need too much. I just want to make sure that when we actually draft the fire code, it actually comes here and then we approve it. And you can do like a very brief summary of what's in it, because I know that it's usually like voluminous. But if you could just do like 1 or 2 pages of everything that's going to be in it. This isn't the report, right?
No, that is not that
Okay.
report.
So, yeah, that's my only request about it.
Very good.
And then what would be the timing on, because I know we have very specific timelines.
Yeah, so the actual draft of the ordinance is complete, along with our collaborative effort with the city attorney's office. And that portion, we just are simply taking the California Fire Code changes that come down, and we mash our previous amendments and ordinances into that. We are not changing anything within the fire
Right.
code. It's simply just an adoption process.
So I think the only thing that we need is just a summary of what the new changes are.
And I can-
Because obviously, it comes here all the time, so we don't need to see all of it. We just need to see the highlights of what's new in 2023. That's it.
I can absolutely present that in the next city council, fire commission meeting. There are a lot of changes that the state
Oh,
does
this year?
adopt. Yeah, and it's massive. But it's literally us just taking and trying to create a public document so that everybody can see the changes.
Yeah, because I
We don't
think,
have a choice.
right, we have to adopt it, basically. But I think it's important for a lot of people who, track this stuff to get just like the highlights of what we think is going to be a big deal with this new changes.
Absolutely.
That's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions about any other items? Okay, seeing none, then a motion is in order to adopt the consent agenda items.
Motion to adopt consent items for A through G.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt items A through G on the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Very good. Then the consent agenda is passed. Let's move to the regular agenda. The regular agenda items. First one is we are so fortunate to have a commissioner with us for this particular item. And Chief Commissioner, which I just can't get over calling him chief, it just slips out. Commissioner Harvey has a lot of information, and he wants to share. I asked him if he would do our Black History notes this year, and so he said he would. And I've heard him speak before, so I knew he was quite capable of doing this presentation, and I enjoyed the speech I heard from him in the past. So let's see what he has to offer us today. Welcome, Chief Commissioner.
Go by both. Okay. All right, thank you. Well, what I'll do is, when I leave here today, I'm actually going to a funeral for a pioneer in the fire service. He's retired as a assistant chief for LA County Fire Department. His name was Herschel Clady. And for those of you who didn't know, the Stentorians, the Association of African Americans in the Fire Service, was combined, LA City and LA County, for many, many years. And he's a past president, and being a pioneer, he literally had to sue for each one of his promotions.
Wow.
So he was one of the first people that I met when I was a probationary firefighter who was not a LA City firefighter. And he invited me back to his station, and I was really hesitant to go, but I did go, and I'm glad I did because that was a beginning of a great relationship, and he really treated me well. And I was very comfortable there. It was one of the first times I was ever comfortable in a fire station because when I was a rookie in our department, I wasn't really treated that well as a rookie. So, Commissioner Woods Gray gave me between 5 and 10 minutes. So what I did is I grouped the presentation into basically time periods. So in an effort to not leave anybody out, I wanted to just kind of hit some of the highlights for the things that happened on the department. So the fire department was organized as a paid department in 1886. In 1888, Sam Haskins, who was born a slave in 1840, he is listed in the census as an employed firefighter for the city of Los Angeles. His actual position was called a call man, and he was actually fatally injured while responding to a fire in 1895. So he only served 7 years, but he was the first African-American firefighter, and he was the first to die in the line of duty. George Bright was hired as the second black firefighter, and he was promoted to lieutenant in 1902. The reason that's significant is he was the first African-American officer. There was no civil service at the time because civil service was established a year later. So in order for him to actually be promoted to lieutenant, there's a famous church, Second Baptist on 23rd and Griffin, and they had to get a letter from the congregation at Second Baptist actually vouching for his good character in order for him to be promoted to captain. All of the black firefighters that were on the fire department at the time were assigned under him, and then when the number actually expanded to where there were more firefighters that could go on one shift, Lieutenant Frank Leyva, a Mexican-American, was put in command of those firefighters at the time. At that time in the census, all Latino firefighters were listed as white. Okay, the site where the first black house was across from Belmont High, probably close to where the UFLAC office is. But once they started construction of the high school, they were moved to Fire Station 30 on Central Avenue. In 1918, firefighter Ben Anderson of Hose Company Number 4 died from injuries sustained in an on-duty accident. The reason that he's singled out is at that time there were no benefits provided by the city for widows and orphans. So the provisions for widows and orphans that started was due to the death of a firefighter, black firefighter in the line of duty. In 1927, LAFD eliminated the rank of lieutenant and made all station officers captains. So at that time, you just had 2 shifts. All the firefighters, the African-American firefighters were at Fire Station 30, and the lieutenants there at the time were then made captains along with all the other captains on the department. So those were the first. In 1931, if you remember back, Captain Hall, the second African-American hired on the third African-American hired on the department, actually passed the battalion chief's exam. He was told basically, it's a shame you're not a white man, but there's no place nor plan for a colored battalion chief. Okay, so keep that date in mind. 1931 was the first time a black man passed the battalion chief's exam. He later retired that same year because he didn't feel like he had a future on the department. In 1936, it was so many black firefighters that they had to go ahead and open a second house, which ended up being Fire Station 14 on 34th and Central. That created opportunities for 2 more captains, 2 more engineers, and 10 more black firefighters. Many people know a lot about the Stentorians and black firefighters as a result of Arnett Hartsfield. He was one of our, we called him our griot, who literally had and documented the history of black firefighters on the department. He came on in 1940. Without going into too much detail, the fire chief at the time, before he came on, was credited for starting the drill tower concept, and that made LA City like the gold standard. Problem is, the drill tower was 24 hours, and they couldn't have a black firefighter housed with white firefighters at the time, so he did not actually go to the drill tower. They just assigned him to Fire Station 30, and he was the rookie there, and he basically learned through on-the-job training as a probationary firefighter, and then being the youngest member, he was known as the rookie, and he took pride in that title and kept it through his retirement and after. 1948, a really important name, James Shern. He was from Kansas. He was hired, remember 1948 is right after World War II. He had a degree in chemistry already when he came on. He actually went through the drill tower with, I want to say, Chief Long. And they became good friends. Both of those guys were very intelligent, very cerebral, and they maintained their friendship throughout the department. That's important because in 1968, he became the first black battalion chief. And his friend from the drill tower, the fire chief, promoted him, okay? So think about it. The first black man to pass the battalion chief's exam in 1931, first black man appointed 37 years later as the first battalion chief. He was brilliant. He started our hazardous materials program, and he was an innovator in the Fire Prevention Bureau, which is one of the avenues. In 1952, the Fire Prevention Bureau and the shops opened to black firefighters. So it gave the department an opportunity to hire more black firefighters at the time. Also, right after World War II, 5 Tuskegee Airmen were hired. So if anybody saw the movie Red Tails, the best and brightest were recruited from all over the country. They became pilots. They protected our bombers in World War II, and 5 of them literally came and served on the LAFD. Also, an interesting name, Ed Garrison, was the last black firefighter hired prior to integration. So Ed Garrison spent a lot of years at Fire Station 92, and most people knew him as Gary. These were the rules for black firefighters. Integration started in 1953 as a concept, okay? There was strong resistance on the department, and the actual implementation didn't start until the end of 1954. The black firefighters from Fire Station 30 and 14 were moved to other stations. When they were given their orientation, they were given these directions. Do not use the station utensils or dishware. Do not drink coffee or read the station newspaper. Do not eat with the other members. Normally they had floor watch, so they would put the black firefighter on floor watch during the meals. Do not fraternize with other firefighters. So other than actual job-related conversations, there were no conversations between the members. Must use the Negro-only bed. There was a bed set aside in the fire station for the black firefighters. must scrub down the shower after using it. So anytime one of the black firefighters actually took a shower, then they had to scour the shower before the other firefighters would use it again. And during lineups and inspections, they had to maintain a 4 human space separation between them and the rest of the crew. And they used to call the grapevine the little grape. That was the station payphone. They weren't allowed to use the station payphone. Oh, one thing. The sign white adults. Some of you are old enough to remember a newsman, he actually ended up being on KCAL, Bill Press. He was a newspaperman at the time. So one day, the crew was out, and there was there were red lines and restricted covenants in the area. So this sign was on a real estate sign, white adults. That sign was taken, and as a joke or prank or serious or whatever, it was put on the door at Fire Station 46, which is now the Stentorian Center. The firefighter, Ray Lopez, was on floor watch when he saw it. So while the members were eating dinner, he went to the grapevine, secretly called somebody nearby. They brought a camera, threw it over the fence. He took a picture, threw the camera back over the fence, and that person got that to Bill Press. So later that day, or that evening, this came on the 6 o'clock news. So that's when the public actually really got exposed to what was going on in the fire stations. So they caused a big stir and a big push in the integration fight. What ends up happening after that is it was resistance, organized and intense through the whole department. There was a survey taken where 98% of the firefighters said they didn't want integration. The white firefighters who did want integration and went on the record, they were actually sent to known hate houses. So they were sent to the houses that the black firefighters were being mistreated the most, and they were being treated the same as the black firefighters. Later that year, the fire chief, on his own, and toward the end of 1955, transferred all the black firefighters back to 14s and 30s. So on his own, he decided to end integration, which led to the fire chief actually being terminated. Okay, now here's some numbers that I want to get. I really want these numbers to hit home. In 1960, the fire department expanded to 3 platoons. Okay, so from 1951 until 1970, okay, this period is 1954. There weren't any hires in 1951 except for Garrison in 1953. But expanding the department plus trying to integrate, there were 2,435 firefighters hired in the city of Los Angeles. 12 were black. Okay? The reason I say hired is important because hired does not mean retained. Okay? We had a 50% rate of terminating between the start of probation and the end of probation. So even though someone was hired, those 12, they didn't all make it. James Shern, 1961. He's a noteworthy figure for LA City. He promoted to captain in 1961. I mentioned earlier that he was promoted to battalion chief in 1968. He actually became the first black to promote to battalion chief. And this is kind of interesting probably to some of you who knew Steve Wynn, whose father, Tony Wynn, was a firefighter. Tony Wynn was actually Chief Shern's staff assistant. In 1963, Mayor Sam Yorty issued a formal order to the LAFD to act like grown-ups and start eating together. So even though reportedly integration happened in 1954, 55 on the department. In 1963, the black firefighters were still being counted out of mess. So for those of you who are familiar with the rules and regulations, where it actually says that there has to be an organized mess, that's why. 1972 to 1974. I skipped forward to those years because it was important. The Justice Department was investigating the fire department at that time. And this same thing is happening nationwide. So a lot of the departments started entering into consent decrees. Our city attorney advised the department to enter into a consent decree. Our department decided to fight it. So they were able to hold off a consent decree for another 2 years. By then, out of over 3,000 member fire department, the number of black firefighters was down to 45, okay? In 1972, Jackie Evans and Kenny Smith were hired as the first black single function EMTs, back then known as the Brown Bombers. And in 1975, Paul Orduna was promoted to Captain 1. I need to back up just a little bit on Paul Orduna because he is actually one of my personal mentors. He was a firefighter in Omaha, Nebraska. He came out here to join the LAFD. When he actually tested for LAFD, for out-of-state firefighters, they would do the written one day and the physical agility the next day. He took his written exam. Even though he passed, they told him there was no need for him to come back the following day, and he could just go home. Fortunately for him, he had car trouble. He went to Fire Station 14, and the firefighters there were helping him repair his car, and they asked him how it went on his physical agility. He told them that he was told not to come back that day. Captain Grady Bryant made a call. It wasn't too late for him to go down there. He went down, took his physical agility test, and passed. So even though he was a firefighter from another department, it was an effort made to keep him out. To make matters even worse, when he did have his oral interview, the board felt that he was a plant and he was too perfect a candidate, so it was still an effort made to not pick him up. Fortunately, the community and the city council knew of what was going on, and they were able to get him his just due and get him in the department. So now we're operating under the consent decree. The consent decree was that the department had to hire 50% minorities, or back then they called us minorities, or people of color, and that included Latinos and Asians. At that time, there were 0 Asians on the department, 45 African Americans, and approximately 69 Hispanic, and then 1 other, so we think might have been a indigenous American, but we're not sure. This is Chief Orduna's picture. In 1975, he was a captain. In 1978, now I'm speaking from experience because I came on the fire department in January of 1978. Between 1974 with the consent decree and 1978, the number of African-American firefighters was up to 92. I was in the class of firefighters that actually put the number of African-American firefighters over 100. Perfect example of how things worked back then. There were 4 classes of 40 at drill towers at the time, 2 at 40s, 2 at 89s. Out of the 160 firefighters, 39 were black, 14 graduated from the drill tower, 8 completed probation. So out of 39, we got 8. Many of those returned to this department. Some went on to the county fire department. 1 became the chief of Pasadena Fire Department, and many were successful all over. But one thing that happened that year in September, the first female paramedics were hired on the LAFD. one of them being Carlesta Johnson Wells, who was the first black female hired by the department. Also in 1980, the Stentorians acquired Fire Station 46, and that's the station where the white adult sign was posted at the door. Also in 1980, Dave Yost became the first black arson investigator. Paul Orduna promoted to battalion chief. So you got the second black battalion chief hired, promoted, was it 47 years after the first one? Okay. Anyway, Delisa Davies, first black woman to complete the LAFD Fire Academy in 1984. Jimmy Hill, Curtis James, Sam Flory, Millage Peak, Robert Sanders, Doug Berry, and Philip Underwood were the African Americans who made captain during that time. 1986, Paul Orduna becomes the first African American promoted to assistant chief. The reason I point out the captain's names is without becoming a captain, you can never become a chief officer. Without becoming a chief officer, you don't have as much impact on the department. Okay, 1988 to 2000. 1988 captain's list is the one that I made captain on. And it was actually the largest number of African Americans to promote to captain off of one list in LAFD history. That includes when we had the all-black houses, that includes after World War II, that includes after the department expanded to 3 platoons. The reason that was also significant to me when I was studying for captain is the history on the department at the time was 2 blacks made captain per list, okay? So literally the captains ahead of me were paired. It was Bob Sanders and Jimmy Hill, Curtis James and Millage Peaks, Philip Underwood and Doug Berry. And then our list, there was a scandal, so our list got extended one more year before our captain's list was certified, so Wendell Sims was the 3rd on the list before I made captain. We made 20 in 1988. So 14 years after the consent decree, got 20 black officers. Curtis James promoted battalion chief, Jimmy Hill and Millage Peak promoted to battalion chief. The 1992 civil unrest happened. At that time, the Stentorians were really active in the community, and it's like, okay, we got to do something. Probably my biggest accomplishment and the thing I'm most proud of on the department is I was the lead instructor and organizer of the Excel study program for Captain Ones. That picture is the retreat that we had the week before the captain's exam. And the picture's a little blurry, but some of the pictures in there that are important and significant is the last assistant chief made, Rudy Hill, was there. He was one of the front row guys. Retired assistant chief Mike Little was one of the front row guys. Deceased battalion chief Jerome Boyd in the front row. Also, officers who, the people in the red shirts were already captains on the department. They came and taught subjects. So rather than farm out our instruction, we actually used our own people. And in the front row, you got Daryl Arbuthnot and Kwame Cooper, along with myself, Bassanio Peters, Dwayne Golden, and I can't remember who else. Another person in the crowd is Antoine McKnight, who just became our DEI chief. So it's important that people make captain, and just the timing of it is kind of important because if you look at when careers start and how long it takes to progress, it's right on the same timeline. Jimmy Hill then became the first deputy chief. Curtis James made assistant chief, making him the second. And Glenn Smith became the first black helicopter pilot. In 1997, the African American Firefighter Museum opened. Michelle Banks, who was the third female hired on the department, was the president. Michelle was second paramedic hired. Delisa Davies was the first, and then Carlester Wells. So she was actually the third female on the department. She was the president of the museum. And Arnett Hartsfield, again, the griot. Brent Burton. His father, Adam Burton, was the chief deputy for Hahn, and he was very instrumental in helping us get funding for the museum. Christopher Cooper, retired captain. Kwame Cooper, retired assistant chief. David Spence, retired battalion chief. Darrell Osby, retired LA County fire chief, were the founding members of the museum. The people in formation marching, we marched in to the front of the museum on opening day, and the good-looking guy in the sunglasses in the middle of the picture is me. All right. 2001 to 2015, major accomplishments. Doug Berry became the first black fire chief in LAFD history, followed by Millage Peaks, followed by Brian Cummings. Okay? And then in the interim, a captain from our department who left to lead the emergency management department, James Featherstone, was the interim fire chief during that time. He did a great job, but captain couldn't become a fire chief. But he was brilliant. He went on to bigger and better things. Also, 2010, Roy Harvey, first black firefighter of the year. Assistant Chief Don Austin retired and went to Detroit as fire commissioner. I already mentioned James Featherstone. And Deputy Chief Leonard Thompson was our first, he was operations deputy chief when he left here, which was second in command under the structure that we had at the time. He went on to lead the Petaluma Fire Department. Assistant Chief Kwame Cooper is now the FDNY Diversity and Inclusion Officer. Deputy Chief Darrell Arbuthnot went on to lead Davis Fire Department and the Vallejo Fire Department. Chief Deputy Armando Hogan, Deputy Chief Richard Fields, and Deputy Chief Orrin Saunders in 2022 were all in place. So 3 of the top people on our department were deputy chiefs at the time, which would have been unthought of. And I want to leave on a high note. Assistant Chief Chris Larson is one of the last promotions that happened on this department. A black female at the level of assistant chief is where we are now in the LAFD. So I rushed through. I know a lot of people got left out along the way, but that just shows the progress from basically the one segregated house to 2 segregated houses to affirmative action and to where we are today. Anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Commissioners, you have any questions?
Thank you so much. I love history, so this is great. And it's nice to know that, we know a lot of these, especially from 2016. And just to see people just go on and do interesting things even after LAFD is like really important to know how important this department is and sort of launching people's careers, even beyond retirement.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Any other commissioner comments?
It was incredible. Thank you so much for providing such a great history. I think, folks always wonder why we have to have certain moments in time dedicated to certain groups. And I think, I wish it was more than just February, but here we are and we're able to get educated and really to see the, unfortunately, all the pitfalls and shortfalls that LAFD had for many years before even hiring people of color, particularly black firefighters, lining up with 1954 and Brown v. Board and all of that historic time within our country, seeing that happen here right in our city. Those numbers were shocking, really, that almost 3,000 firefighters were hired, and like you said, 12, made it on whether they stayed or not. And we have a long way to go, and really looking at, as a whole, the history of our fire department and those negative sides of it that often, may be buried, but we're bringing them up here as a commission and moving forward with a lot of progress, even within this commission itself. If you look at it, I think that's great. So thank you. I would love to have a copy of this presentation as well, just to have these facts and spread it along anywhere that I can and educate other folks within my own community.
I'll email you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Chief
All of us,
Commissioner
that would be great.
Harvey. That was extremely good. I knew you would do a great job. And to have you as a part of living history,
Yes.
and then as the commissioner said, we are a part of the living history because we, 9.5 years ago, lived through many of these activities that took place. And so we consider ourselves fortunate to have been a part of the progress of this department. Although, as everyone said, we know we have further to go. There's always room for growth. And it was some of the history. I didn't realize that the Tuskegee Airmen had been firefighters. I have met them before. Bill Press, who was a friend of mine, I never knew what he did. When I talk with him next, we must go over that. And then Adam Burton, I knew as a staffer, but I did not know that was Brent's father after all of these years.
So with the Burton family, a perfect example, you got Adam, who is a firefighter, paramedic at Fire Station 94. Andre is a police officer with LAPD. And then Brent is about to retire from LAPD
Yes.
Fire Department. He started as an explorer for our department.
And he's been so instrumental with the Dorsey program. Oh. He's really been very instrumental with our Dorsey Magnet. So and I hope that you will share the PowerPoint with all of us because it was quite informative, and maybe we can find another way to share it and have you go out with it. Because it was very well put together and so much information. I mean, it's just amazing. The information that you put together. Thank you so much for that. It was well organized. And we do know that we have firefighters who leave here and go on to other places. Like, I was just like, Cormier is in New York? I knew that he was there, but when I heard it, it was the first thing I went was, what?
Yeah, he's originally from New York, and we sent him back.
Isn't that so? And that's why I guess he could take that place, because that's a place that takes special people for. Thank you again for that presentation, and we're happy to have you as a member of our commission. Thank you so much. Okay, now let's move on to our next item. The next item is 5B. It's a report of the Department of Paramedic vacancy projections. Okay, Chief Dixon, you're going to do that one?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning again, Commissioners, Fire Chief Crowley, Deputy City Attorney Nguyen, and guest and command staff. Again, Tyler Dixon, Assistant Chief, assigned to the EMS Bureau. Before you, Commissioners, you have a report. This is a monthly report regarding paramedic field vacancy projections. As you'll see, if we look at February now, we're at approximately 65 paramedic vacancies in field positions. And to walk you through the report, it's in the same format that we've used previously, where the blue columns represent the paramedic vacancies, the gold column represents overall field vacancies, and you'll see the math below that gets you to those conclusions or projections. We have included the drop projections, members exiting drop, included anticipated estimated promotions of firefighter paramedics into higher ranks. The other column accounts for other reasons for separation or transfers to other locations within the department. And then you have a column or a line anticipating recruits that have paramedic license that enter the drill tower. You'll see that that falls off after January 24 as far as projections, because those are numbers of actual recruits that are in the drill tower projected to graduate. And then finally, you have our internal members that attend UCLA paramedic school at a 80% retention rate. You see the estimates there. As we've discussed before, we're all looking towards January 24, where we have a significant number of members exiting the drop program. Projected there, you have 18 firefighter paramedics included in there. What is not reflected in this report is one of the many initiatives that the department is pursuing to curve these paramedic vacancies in the near and recent, or in the near future, are the emergency appointment paramedics that the department is exploring and moving forward with the personnel department and pursuing a pilot class of EAPs. That's the end of the report. Welcome any questions, ma'am.
Okay. Can we have a report on the emergency appointment of paramedics?
Yes, ma'am. Department will work towards getting that to the commission.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. When the numbers that are dropping, the vacancies, does that include the people who were paramedics but not working as paramedics? Do you count them when they leave anyway?
So the report that you have in front of you, ma'am, is specific to field positions for firefighter paramedics on ALS resources. So this would not include, say, a fire inspector that happens to have a paramedic license. This report is specific to the job functions of paramedics in the field.
Oh, okay. Very good. It sounds like from the reports we've heard this past week from the television that we're in like a state of emergency, and we cannot continue to do the same thing we've been doing. So that we definitely have to do something new. And I would like for the department to report back to us on a plan of how they plan to solve the vacancies, whatever ideas you have, because that always catches the public's attention. It caught my attention because I could be very one who called paramedics I have in the past and may need them, and would like to. This kind of takes me back to the response time, which is not your report, but when we first came on, we had a response time issue, and to see us going back is something that we really want to counter. I know there are a lot of issues that's dealing with it other than what we had 9 years ago. Are there other questions or comments from the commissioners?
Yeah.
Commissioner?
I know in the past, we've brought back retired chief officers and captains who had like specialized knowledge. Have you guys given any thought to providing an opportunity for retired paramedics who still have active licenses to come back either on an hourly basis or on a short contract to fill some of the vacancies? I know in the past, some people retired and realized they didn't like it so much, and we're trying to get back in other capacities, so it might be an opportunity to fill some of the vacancies.
Yes, sir. The department is considering that among many other options. There are some details associated with it, as you know, Commissioner, that would have to be worked through, but under Chief Crowley's leadership, the department's looking at multiple avenues to curb these vacancies.
Okay.
Other comments?
So just one last comment for me is that I know that in the past, the response time controversy was more about the fact that, you know, we weren't maintaining consistent numbers. And I think now it's like, these are the numbers, and they don't look good. But, you know, thank you, because I know that we're all doing our best and everybody's working really hard, and that's one of the issues that we hear from our members all the time is how overworked they are. So, you know, good job to everybody for putting in the work.
Thank you, Commissioner.
That's true. We really want to make that clear, that we don't think it's our staff that's slacking. It's just that we don't have enough people to do what we need to do, and we don't have enough vehicles to go out and do what we need to do. So, and I know that they're working overtime, because I've met some of them in the community at different places, and they can't even get their milkshake that they just ordered because they have to run and say, tell them I'll be back. So I know that they're really doing a good job, a great job out there trying to meet the needs of the community, but it's just overwhelming, the number of things that are happening. So
Yes,
I think the commissioner is aware of the problem that we have here, and the chief is aware of it, and we know that things will be moving to try to help to alleviate the problem. I think a lot of this drop program came in after that consent decree. It's the time now when we're losing a lot of those people who were hired back then. So we've got to find another way to get this thing rolling, huh?
Right, and if I may, and that's what's so important as we're not surprised. We've got the metrics. Now,
Right.
there's some little caveats in there where people may leave a little bit early or unanticipated amount of members that are off long-term injury or illness. Those are all vacant seats that we have to absorb. So really, it's about creating the path forward. I believe we can easily justify the ask, but it's one thing to have a plan moving forward of how do we fill our vacant positions, let alone knowing where our gaps in service may be with our standards of cover and creating the path forward for us organizationally so that we can now address the, response times and the issues that we're having. So we have our immediate plan, and we're working out in our strategic plan what's going to look like for us over the next 3 years, and then create the pipeline of individuals coming in so that we can better serve the community.
So a quick question as to when we think the standards of cover is going to be completed?
Right, so we have the final draft. It's back with the third party. They're making their final adjustments. So we're hearing probably within 2 months.
Oh, is it that long? I thought we were going to hear it on
Wait, hang on one
at our
second.
meeting in April.
2 weeks. All right, I'll say 2
Because I
weeks.
thought we were hearing it like March
Yeah,
or April.
yeah, so I know that we are making the final modifications to it, and so we have our subject matter expert there with Chief Perez, so we'll report on it in approximately 2 weeks when we'll have it.
Okay, very good. That sounds great. That sounds great. Okay, any other comments or concerns? As the chief said, we have the facts, and we can't say it surprised us, but as the president said, we have a lot of training to do, and we have to follow certain rules and standards because we got to make sure everybody is safe. Not only the people that the paramedics are going out to get, but the other people, everybody has to be protected. And so the training is extremely important. That's what I found out when I went to observe the classes at the recruitment tower. I could see how important the training was to the safety of firefighters and paramedics. So we must continue to work on that, but we just have to find some way to, the chief will do it. Everything falls back on the chief, and we're confident that she'll take care of it. Okay, very good. Thank you, Chief Tyler Dixon.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, the next item is from Chief Perez. We're talking about COVID. Oh, thank you. I forgot that. Is there a motion to receive and
So
file
moved.
the report in 5B?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we receive and file item BFC 23-012. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. The motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Gomez. Okay, we'll move on to now 5C, verbal report. Welcome, Chief Perez.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, Madam President and honorable commissioners. My name is David Perez. I'm an assistant chief and currently serve as the chief of staff at the fire department. I'm here with your COVID vaccination and exemption numbers as of 8 o'clock this morning. Currently, we have 3,840 active members on the department. Of those, 3,239, or 84.3%, are fully vaccinated. 21 show as partially vaccinated. 282 have declared that they're not vaccinated. 43 have declined to state. Most of those members have been off duty on a long-term leave, so they have not yet been required to report a status. 249 have not yet reported. Those are mostly the last few rookie classes or civilian hires. And then of the members who are not fully vaccinated, 335 filed exemptions. Of those, 288 were religious, 32 were medical, and 15 were cases where a member filed both a religious and a medical exemption. In total, we've had 359 people who were served a 48-hour notice of noncompliance. In other words, these were people who were told that they were about to be sent home. Of those 359, 129 became compliant before we actually sent them home, and 230 at one time or another were placed on unpaid leave. In most cases, those leaves were only a day or two. Some have been quite long. Of those, 215 have since returned to duty, and there's a significant change there. We added 4 people back in the last week due to a new ruling from the Personnel Department. That leaves us with 10 members who are currently off duty, long-term, as a due to failure to maintain a condition of employment. 17 have resigned, 2 have retired earlier than planned, but cited COVID vaccination rules as their reason, and 2 were discharged. And that's the end of my report.
Are there any questions regarding COVID?
So
Have-
the 10 members, are they scheduled for Board of Rights, or what's going on with them?
2 have Board of Rights in progress right now. The others are pending.
Okay.
So there was an LA Times story about the Personnel Department issuing some new rules. How does that affect these numbers going forward?
We had, up until that ruling came out from the Personnel Department, there were 14 members who had been off duty long-term. 4 of those members had filed for exemptions after their Skelly hearing. And in a ruling from the city attorney's office at the time, if they filed their exemption after Skelly, we were not returning them to duty. With this ruling from the Personnel Department, we resubmitted their exemption requests to the supergroup, and the supergroup approved them all, so they were returned to duty forthwith.
Okay, so that leaves 10.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
So those people, are they testing, or is there no testing anymore?
The testing rules were suspended as of Friday.
Oh,
There is
okay.
no more testing.
Okay, any other questions? What was partially vaccinated? What does that mean?
It means they had 1 shot of a 2-shot series.
Oh, okay, so the others had 4 vaccination?
We've only required in the documentation for the first 2 shots of a 2-shot. We've never gone on to the boosters or anything else.
I see, okay. Okay, very good. Thank you, Chief Perez, and welcome to your new position. Last time you came, you were still acting, but
Yes,
now you are the Chief of Staff, and we welcome you here, too.
Thank
We have a lot of new people, but as I've always said, in the fire department, don't print the roster for who's where, because the very minute you print it, it's outdated. That's how much movement happens in this department. Okay, very good. I was going to say happy birthday to Chief Saunders, but we've already said that. I want to thank Commissioner Babcock for accepting responsibility to help us get our iPads up and running. Thank you very much for doing that. Thank you to Commissioner Harvey for the Black History moment. And I want to also thank the LAFD Fire Foundation, because they're always supporting us in ways that really help with the safety of the members and the community. So we really thank them for the work that they do, raising money and spending it on us to help us. So that's great. Any other final comments from commissioners? Okay, seeing none, that's the end of our agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we adjourn the meeting. All those in favor say aye.
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 And those opposed, like sign. Thank you very much, commissioners. Have a good week, 2 weeks.